Hello, everyone. In this day and age of scams running amok, I think just about everybody's life has been touched by one in some way, whether you yourself are a victim of one or someone you know is. Every day I turn on the news, there's a new scam out. But I want to tell you today about something that happened to me. Thankfully, it wasn't that big of a deal, but overall, it can be because all these little scams add up. One day, I received a bill from a transit authority where I don't live, where I've never been. And this was in 2025 when I was actually resting and I wasn't driving because I was dealing with some temporary blindness in my eye. So I know for a fact I did not go to this place and I did not go through a toll. My car was never there. I was never there. Nobody in my household drove there. This is such a messed up story, but it all works out. My great-grandmother used to have a saying, it all comes out in the wash, and that's pretty much how this turned out. And not good for the guy that did this because now he's in prison. So basically I got this bill. It was like $3 or less. It wasn't a huge deal. My son at the time was traveling a lot. He had a couple of school trips that he went to different states. And honestly, when I first saw the bill, I thought back, like, did he borrow my car to go on one of those trips? Because I know at one time he was going to go with a bunch of guys, not to this state where it happened, but through that state to get where he was going. And I thought, you know what? That might be the physics club. That's honestly what I thought. And so therefore, I really didn't pay attention to it because it was only a few dollars. And that's the scam. That's what they do. It's only a few dollars. They bet on that nobody's paying attention. But I asked my son, hey, did you go through a toll this day? He thought back. He said, no. And I said, are you sure? Because I got a bill. I don't want to not pay it, but I need to know. He said, well, let me look back in my course book because he's in college. And he looked back and he said, no, I know exactly where I was that day. And I was here. I wasn't there. I never went through that state during that time. Therefore, it's a mistake. If you didn't go through that state, it's a mistake. I had been hearing and reading about this scam going around where, and this is how it was presented from what I saw. You'd be in a parking lot somewhere and somebody could duplicate your license plate using a printer to go through tolls. But I worked at a car dealership for a small time and I don't see how that would actually work. Because even when we printed temporary plates for customers to drive off in their new car, I had a customer get stopped by the police once. So imagine, I don't think that would work out well in the end to print a plate and stick it on your car. The police aren't dumb. They're going to know it's not real. So I didn't think it was something like that. And then I came across a forum where this happened to like 15 different people or so. And they said, you have to call the transit authority, explain to them it wasn't you, and they just dismiss it. They wipe it out. It took me a while to get through. But when I did, I spoke to a lady. And I explained to her that this wasn't us. This was no one in our household. I confirmed with my son. He didn't travel through there at that time. And the back of this page, it was a 2-page form, had a supposed picture of my vehicle, but it was just blackened out. There was no picture that I could see. And I said to her, now I have a question for you. Is this even legit? Or is this a scam in itself? Like, is this notification that I owe a toll? Is that the scam? She said, no, that's legit. It's in my system. You owe the toll. And I said, okay, so if it is legit, let's start there. Can you see a picture of my vehicle? She said, yes, I can. I said, okay, because on my end, it just came out black, totally black. What is the picture of the vehicle? She's like, well, tell me what you drive. So I told her I drive a red car and the make and the model. She asked me what my license plate was, and I told her. And she says, oh, yeah, this isn't for you. This is obviously a mix-up. And I said, now, is it a scam or a mix-up? I don't understand how this works. She goes, well, were you ever at this place? And I said, no, never. In fact, I haven't visited the place she's talking about because I don't live there. I drove through it probably 25 years ago, and I haven't been back. There's no way it was me. She said, well, this is a specific parking lot. Like, you'd have to be, and I don't know how she knew this, but this is what she said. You'd have to be like a member and pay a monthly fee to park there. And I said, no, I don't pay. The only time I did that was when I worked in the city, not there, a different city. And I parked in a parking garage, but I never paid to park in a parking lot. I don't know this area, so I don't know what she was talking about, where there's a toll to get in a parking lot. I have no idea. Anyway, she said it was clearly a mix-up, not to worry about it. They were going to just, balance it out, and I wouldn't owe anything, that it obviously wasn't my fee. Great. I forgot about it, but there was a online way to check. So I did. And every time I checked, it would say invalid. So I just naturally assumed it went away. Until 3 months later, I got another bill, past due notice. This is our attempt to collect a debt or something. I'm like, what? They hadn't tacked on any fee or interest, but they threatened to if I didn't pay it. And at this point, I'm like, it's $3. Oh my goodness. But it was the principle of the thing. Like, I didn't want to pay something I didn't owe because I knew it wasn't mine. They had admitted it wasn't mine, that it was some kind of mix-up. That's not my problem. It's their problem. So I called again. And I said, hey, this isn't my bill. I've already talked to this woman. And I had the information written down. I had the name, date, time, the person's full name and all that. I had it written down. I said, this is who I spoke to, and this is what she said. This is not my bill, but yet you're billing me and saying I have to pay, or you're threatening me. And the lady said, well, that information is nowhere in our system. It can't be found. It never happened. I said, it absolutely happened. How would I have this person's name? And then she gave me some rigmarole like, oh, there's no person here by that name. And I said, okay, what happens if I don't pay that toll? Because it's not mine. I know it's not mine. I guess if I went there with an active toll, what do they do? Impound your car or something? I don't know. I don't have that problem here. We don't have tolls. So I said to her, well, did you check to see if it's my car? Because the other lady said it wasn't even my same car, make, model, nothing, even color. She said, well, what do you drive? I told her all that again. And she looked, she goes, yeah, sure enough, you don't, that's not the car that's on here. So you must not owe the bill. And I said, okay, so I don't have to pay it? She goes, oh no, you have to pay it. Well, why do I have to pay the bill if it's not my car? And it's obviously a mix-up. And I already called about this. Now I'm getting aggravated. But what was strange to me was I went back to that forum that I had read online, and more people had come forward in the meantime. And they all said the same thing, that they just canceled the bill and they didn't owe it. But that wasn't my experience. That wasn't my case. So I said to the lady, you know what? It's $3. I'm paying it forward to whoever the scammer is, because it is a scammer. And I made sure after that, I monitored my credit card every single day until I made sure there was no fraud, scam. But this was the legit number for the transit company. I didn't call the number from the form. I called the number from the actual transit office. So that's one thing to note. If you ever get a bill like that in the mail, don't ever just call the number on it, because it could be a scam. Same thing with medical records. Whenever I get a notification in my email that I owe a bill, or I have a new record, or my doctor said something or whatever, I don't click on links in the email. I go right to that medical place and I open my information from that place. That's where I log in. I do not ever log in from an email. So those are two pieces of advice that could help you spare yourself from a scam or a virus on your phone or computer. So lo and behold, I started scrolling through my phone after dinner, and I see an article pop up. A scammer was charged in a multi-million-dollar scheme So I really have no idea how he did this, why he did this, whatever, obviously to get out of paying tolls. But multi-million dollars worth? I mean, that's kind of silly, right? But apparently it was a criminal network that was in fact printing license plates. And that's what was happening. They were using these printed fake license plates to go through tolls in a state that had a lot of tolls, so they didn't have to pay them. But then the victims were coming forward and disputing them. So ultimately, the state ended up with a multi-million-dollar loss before actually looking into it, that's absurd to me. You know, I could understand one or two people calling and saying, hey, this isn't mine. But after a while, you would think they would be like, you know what? We've had 10 calls today. What's going on? You'd think they would take action before it grew to millions and millions of unpaid tolls. So my advice is, if you ever receive a paper toll in the mail, A, do not call or click on any of the links or numbers from that paper. Go directly to the transit company, find out the actual phone number or link to the website or whatever it is. Contact them through there only. Look at the actual form. Make sure it's actually valid and real and legit. And that in itself isn't the scam. Because sometimes people send out fraudulent forms as well, and you think you're actually safe because it's a transit company or it's a government official or it's a medical thing. But that can be the actual scam. The next thing you want to do is confirm that it is in fact your car, especially when you can't see the color, make, model, or license plate in their photo. If it's all blacked out, well, that doesn't give you a very fair advantage. So you want to confirm all of that. And having gone through this myself and having an outcome different than most people that have talked about it online, I think I would write them instead of calling, or I would make a first call, but then I would also write a letter to prove it's not my car. One suggestion I read was take a picture of your plate and send it to them so they know it's not you, because they can verify that through the DMVs. In my case, it was too late already because I didn't write them and they didn't accept a picture from me. So if I had the picture and I wrote them, this probably would have went away. Instead, I got scammed for $3. Could have been worse. But hey, it's not working out too well for the scammer now, is it?